Hi, I wanted to give you an update on where we're at with our building project. As you can tell, trusses are up. Very excited about that. And hopefully as early as next week, you'll start seeing decking go on so we can actually put a roof on soon. Along with that though, people asking me, are we still on time? I believe we are. I say that almost with a little bit of trepidation because we still know weather is real and we're not through February and we're not totally closed in. But things still look good for, end of October, beginning of November is where our target date still is. But what I want to show you today are spaces that you haven't seen. The gathering space baptistry and the storm shelter. Another question people often ask me, especially when they're looking from the outside, is, Father, it looks like the gathering space is smaller than it used to be. In actuality, it's way bigger. Now I'm going to show you something today so you can get perspective. This is actually where the doors of the new church are going to be. Now, let me show you how much gathering space there is. It's all this space. It goes all the way back. We know our community is one of our most important and valued pieces of our parish. And so we want to have space that people can gather, people can talk, people can, come together. But then at the core of this, and this really to me is the difference from the old gathering space to the new one. See, in our old gathering space, we gathered and there was a baptistry in it. In our new gathering space, it's actually a baptistry that we gather in. This is the key. This is the piece that everything is focused on. And hopefully what it's to remind us of is who we are as children of God. Now, with this, I'm going to have our architect tell you more about it. Because the reality is, James McCreary is the one who designed all this. So he can tell you why we did this, what's the function of, and really what the symbolism of it is.
Well, thank you very much, Father, for that great build-up and for the very kind introduction. And hello to everyone in the parish. My name is James McCreary, and it's a great honor to be with all of you and to follow up with Father and second his thoughts that he shared with you about the gathering space and with the entry area and especially the baptistry. For it's by entering, we enter the church through faith, and we, of course, we also enter it very importantly through the sacrament of baptism. So it's entirely appropriate that we would enter St. Jude's Church through the baptistry. And so that we physically, literally, and also physically enter into St. Jude, either from the north parking lot or from the south parking lot, and we enter into the baptistry. The baptistry is formed on the former circular footprint of your old gathering area, your previous gathering area. And that's the sort of literal inspiration for that circular form, is that we took it from the original circular form. And we're grateful for that because that circular form allows us to have a pivot between the church that is now properly and directly oriented, that is, that it is organized facing east, so that all of us lay people, when we're in the church, we're facing east as Father celebrates the Mass and as we anticipate the coming of Jesus in his second coming from the east. And that the circular form of the baptistry and the gathering area allows that pivot to occur with the education wing that's already there and will remain. So this way, then the gathering space and that circular pivot with the new church all become a unified whole. And that was something that Father and the parish committee really asked for from the very beginning, that it's not this disjointed group of buildings, but rather there's this unified whole to it. And that's allowed and provided by the roundness. And so rising above the lower circular part of the gathering area is an octagonal drum and a cupola. And that cupola then has 8 clear story windows that will allow a lot of light to come down into the midst of the baptistry. And 8 is important, and it signifies, traditionally and theologically, it signifies the 8th day of creation. Now we know from Genesis that there are only 7 days of creation. But as we're a pilgrim church, and as we look forward and carry forward in our lives, anticipating and hoping and praying, and in faith, anticipating Christ's redemption of our souls, we look forward to that 8th day of creation. And that's always been, and has really from the earliest days where we have the earliest baptismal fonts and baptistries, there's that eight-sided form that comes forth. So it's very common to see eight-sided baptismal fonts, and it's very common to see eight-sided baptistries, especially in the early parts of the church. And so what we're doing here is bringing to St. Jude's this long held tradition of octagonal eighth-day architecture. Also, and that we put it at the entrance of the church, so that you enter then the church, you enter the faith every single time you're entering the church, you're entering through the sacrament of baptism. And Father has been very wanting, a great pastor, and he's been thinking about this from the very beginning, that not only does he want the font to be there as a symbol and as a sign of the sacrament of baptism, but he wants all of us, all of you especially, to be able then to return to that sacrament as you're entering the church and bless yourself from the waters of the font directly. So very commonly you'll find, those holy water fonts just to the left or to the right of the doors. There will be a few of those, but commonly what Father is asking is that you bless yourselves from the water of the baptismal font as you enter. So each time you come and go from the church, you're sort of recommitting yourself quite literally to the graces and promises of the faith through the sacrament of baptism. And that's the core of your gathering area. So that, as Father was just describing and touring you around that very large gathering area, that you gather as Catholics around the very font, literally the font of faith, the baptismal font itself.
Thanks, James, and certainly I appreciate really your vision that you've brought to us. And really, that's one of the things I think of when I come out here personally, is the vision, right? So when you come into the baptistry, right, we come to the actual baptistry, and then you get this major vision, right? Even the scripture, "This is my beloved Son in whom I am well pleased. Listen to him." It reminds me of my divine sonship. Every time I come back in, I put my hand back in that baptistry, which reminds me of the fact that I'm his child, and then I'm orientated to the altar, right? That now, if I am his child, he must feed me, he must strengthen me, so that I can be his disciple. One last important area that I want to show you is actually, this is the hallway going down to the education wing. If you remember, we actually extended it. So there's meeting rooms, there's actually a major meeting room right here. It's got a kitchenette, right? So we knew we lost the old kitchen in this social hall, so we were going to bring that back, right? So Bible studies can have that. We also have, spaces for the DRE, offices, more storage. But at the core of all this, and literally that's what it is, it's the core, is a storm shelter. We paid extra for this, I assure you. We poured concrete block walls in here, plus there'll be a concrete deck with the steel over top. Why do we want to do that? For storms. So that we know that we got a space that's an inner core space that's more protective, especially of our young people. Know how grateful I am. I'm glad that you got to hear, and hopefully you hear in me just my excitement, right? The baptistry, the church. Sometimes I walk in here and I'm like, which one's going to be more beautiful? It's really amazing and exciting. So I want to thank you for your participation. We'll try to keep you updated. If you have questions, let us know. Know how grateful we are for all you do, and hopefully what St. Jude can do for many souls for many years. God bless.